Why do I call myself the mortgage medic? First, because it's catchy and memorable. Everyone loves alliterations. Second, because it perfectly describes what I set out to do when I got into the mortgage industry. I've been a paramedic for about 20 years and now simultaneously working as a loan officer. The more time I spend in both industries, the more I realize these two roles have more in common than a lot of people would guess. I'm Jeremiah Seldow, the mortgage medic. I'm a loan officer in Texas with hook and ladder lending. Let's get into it. Throughout my time as a paramedic, I showed up at people's homes or other emergency scenes on what was very often the worst day of their life, be it a medical emergency, a car wreck, a moment where someone's world had just been turned upside down and they had no idea what was about to happen next. Here's what that job actually teaches you. Underneath the medical knowledge and skills, it teaches you how to walk into a scene of complete turmoil and be the most composed person around. It teaches you how to explain something terrifying in a language a scared patient can actually understand, because the words you choose in that moment genuinely matter. And it teaches you that the person in front of you is not just another run. They are a person in the middle of a crisis who needs someone to tell them what's going on, to reassure them, and, if need be an advocate for them. When I started as a loan officer, I expected the two careers to feel completely unrelated, but they didn't. Buying a home is one of the biggest financial decisions most people will ever make, and for a lot of buyers, especially the first-time home buyers, it comes with real fear. Fear of being denied, fear of the unknown process, fear of getting taken advantage of by someone who doesn't actually care whether they end up okay. I recognized that fear immediately. I'd seen a version of it for the past 2 decades, just in a different setting. So I became the mortgage medic. I provide a field diagnosis of people's financial situations as it pertains to purchasing a home. I also provide the treatment necessary to help them achieve their goal of home ownership. That treatment comes in the form of structuring the right loan strategy for each client's goals and comfort level. Or it can come in the form of helping the client figure out how to improve their current financial status so it becomes optimal for home buying. I stay calm when the process gets complicated, and I treat every client like someone I'm responsible for while keeping their best interests at heart. I don't treat them like a transaction I'm trying to close. I want to be really direct about something because I think it matters more than almost anything else I could tell you about myself. Some people in the mortgage business are only about one thing. That's closing the loan. They get the application, get the file to underwriting, get to the closing table, move on to the next file. I understand why. It's a transaction-based business and the bills aren't going to pay themselves. However, I don't operate that way. I see myself more as a client advocate, not a transaction robot. Here's the difference in practice. A transaction robot tells you what you're approved for and lets you decide if that's a good idea. A client advocate tells you what you're approved for and then tells you honestly whether that's actually a good idea for your specific life, even when the honest answer is not yet, or not that much, or let's wait on this. I've told clients to wait. I've told clients to buy less house than they were approved for. I've told buyers that a piece of popular advice they heard somewhere else wasn't something I'd actually recommend for their situation. None of that closes a loan faster, but all of it's the job, at least as far as I'm concerned. You don't spend about 2 decades responding to people's worst days without it changing how you think about responsibility. The branch I work for is called Hook and Ladder Lending, and as a team, we are financial first responders. We run the gamut of emergency services, the fire service, EMS, and law enforcement. It's not as spectacular as those super riveting, action-packed 911 shows, but the whole team already operates on the idea that we show up for people during one of the most stressful financial moments of their life. And we treat that moment with the same urgency and care as any first responder would bring to an emergency. It's the same standard I've held myself to for the past 2 decades. First responders don't get to pick easy days. Most of the calls that matter happen when something already feels overwhelming. I think about home buying the same way. Most people aren't calling me on an easy day either. They're calling because they're nervous, confused, or worried they'll get something wrong on the biggest purchase of their life. Showing up calm and confident for that moment is a huge part of the job. So, if you're thinking about buying a home and you want to work with someone who's going to actually tell you the truth about your situation, my contact info is in the description to schedule a free consultation. No pressure, no pitch, just an honest conversation, the same way I'd want if I were in your position. If this resonated with you, subscribe. I post content like this every week. Real information about mortgage and the home buying process. And if you know someone who's about to start this process and could use someone in their corner, send them this video. I'll see you in the next one.